Hello and welcome back. In the short lecture, we will be learning more about PowerShell remoting capabilities. To begin with this, let's first understand how it's gonna remote it. So when you are sitting on a client machine, you want to work on a server by initiating some kind of commands. Which can be executed remotely on the machine. To do that, we have a different commandlets which are purely dedicated to perform these actions. So these things would be start by using one of the session on the machine, by using a services like a WinRM, Windows Remote Management in short, and it would be authenticated, or it would be connected over the protocol called HTTP and a port 5986. If it is a also a 5985, that means these protocol, you may be thinking that HTTP is not more secured, but what would happen is it's gonna authenticate, or it's gonna bind with your internal Kerberos tickets or your Active Directory, and then that gets more secured, and it gets communicated with client to server. You may be thinking that if it is a work group or there's no Active Directory, in that situation we would be passing the credentials with the help of certificates. That's gonna it's gonna work in that way actually. Let me also show you here in the next slide. You can check out the same information, like remoting configurations are can be enabled. As a first step, you need to enable on the client machine to configure something called enable PSRemoting. So when you execute this commandlet, it might give you some intent questions to accept as a yes, to create some kind of firewall exception for that port, in this case 5986 and 85 specific, as well as it's going to create a rule in the firewall. Along with that, it's gonna actually fully enabling and configuring your PSRemoting capabilities. Similarly, if you're trying to set for the WSMan quick config with the SSL, you can configure, as I said, for the workgroup computers, and also for the group policy management. Also, you can configure a specific process. What if you're trying to configure as a manually, you can configure even certificate templates and GPO and PSRemoting, and you can which will also configure your WSMan quick config, and all these steps needs to be executed. And as a next step, or the next slide, you can also configure this WinRM with the GPU in a larger scale. Why we are talking about all these in a larger scale means because when you configure, because the PSRemoting is required to run this specific service. For example, if you can remember in one of our basic lecture which we tried for the scripting, where we got an error, we need to start that WinRM specific service or WS management service, a specific service. So these are the services that needs to be configured definitely, and these things might to be configured. You might need to configure with the help of group policy, so that you have a unique specific settings for the remoting enabling. And also you can run the script execution policies also should be set for the specific path, and also the, as I said, authentication would be on negotiation and the Kerberos and all that kind of methods would be used, but for securing we can go for the by default with the Kerberos authentication. And PowerShell also uses, as I said, a WinRM. So WinRM client also to be configured if you're trying to use for multi connectivity between the one session to another session, like a credential SSP to be used, and that specific configuration can be configured even from the group policy. So whatever the things we needed for the remote shell can be configured from the group policy. That's what I wanted to see. And this definitely have some kind of limitation. You can't definitely query more and more computers at once, or more users at once, so there should be some kind of limit. So that's a limit which is giving directly from the Microsoft PowerShell. So these are very well documented here in this specific link for the allowing remote shell, but we may not cross all these limits in a normal business case. And these are the PowerShell commandlets which I'm talking about, which we will be using, like entering to the new PS session, or a new PS session, or removing, or connecting to a different session. And for utilizing the invoke command on a remote computer, very similar to your PSExec, if you're aware of the PSExec, similar case you can use. So with the combination of invoke command and the new PS session, we are going to work and retrieve and build a decent scripts and decent remoting capabilities with this. And if you're looking for any kind of help, you can always go back to these are the 3 different help files which are available. Out of this, the about session is the new session which can give you more information, and you can always go for the help. And for the troubleshooting, yes, it all depends on your WinRM, and so definitely you need to have the WinRM specific logs should be checked, and whether do we have the proper ports or enable, like 5950, 5985 and 5986 to your computer, and check even netstat with the specific to your ports or listening. And these are the normal issues you might encounter, like firewall port might be not configured, or maybe a path or certificate expire, or certificate is not configured properly if you are working on a workgroup environment. So these are some of the limitations, like not all the commands can be executed. For example, if you're trying to do a new session on a remote computer with your session, you want to do the disk part or NSLOOKUP or PSX, it's not going to work. These are the limitations which are with the PowerShell remoting capabilities. And built-in variables also available, and these are the few of the information which I wanted to share before I jump into the scaling of your PowerShell for the remoting. Thank you for watching this. Stay tuned for more practical execution of those commands, and we would make our hands more dirty.